We're going to be full of hot takes on this episode because we have the hottest researcher on the planet. I am not referring to his looks. I'm referring to his ability.
I'm here looking at Ryan Burge. I'm thinking, hot take? Oh my gosh, this is like someone just called me young.
You know what? Hot takes from the hottest researcher on the planet. And yes, we have Dr. Burge with us on the Burge Report. We're going to be talking about politics in the pulpit. Do people want more or less? He's got some really good answers here. Ryan, welcome back to your own show.
I am the hottest. It's 97,000 degrees right now in Illinois, so I am in many ways the hottest researcher in America.
At the time of this recording, it's the dead of summer, and we're having a blast. Certainly, and I love summer in Florida actually because it's slow. We slow down. It's we get a couple of months of just breathing, which is nice.
We don't get that. Heat index of 105. I mean, you go outside and you sweat buckets. We're not built for this, guys.
Well, and a lot of people may not know this about you, but you live in Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Correct.
You've lived in that area for pretty much your whole life.
Yes.
I think I actually admire that about you. I think that's kind of neat that you're very well known, but you're a small town guy.
I'm a big booster of the small town life. I mean, my mortgage is incredible. I tell people my mortgage, they can't even believe it. It's less than most people's car payments. I never have to worry about traffic. I never have to worry about parking. I mean, I can get around town in 10 minutes from any side to any side. Now there's downsides. Like it's an hour and a half drive to the airport, which is not fun, but we leave our doors unlocked when we leave the house most of the time. I mean, it's just safe. It's easy. My kids like it. We like it. It's good.
So if you're listening, and now that you know that Ryan lives in Mount Vernon, please don't drive to Mount Vernon and ask where he lives so that you can just walk into his house randomly. That would be inappropriate.
You'll find piles of clothes and laundry and books and God knows what.
No, I just imagine like piles of like printed off spreadsheets and all these computers running all these models. That's what I imagine in your house.
That is not at all what it looks like. It looks like the television's got baseball on of some kind. There's a laundry basket on the floor. There's stacks of books I get in the mail that I really want to read, but I never actually do read. And then there's three computer screens with like numbers on them all the time. And I look like a hacker, but really I'm not. So.
All right. Well, certainly want to thank our sponsor for today's episode, Upward, longtime sponsor, longtime partnership with them, and they would love to partner with your church. They have this 5K challenge, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. Now is the time to be thinking about it because summer will soon become fall, and that's a really good time to start, your running activities between now and right before it gets cold. So go check out what they have to offer when it comes to the 5K challenge. These are tailored training plans. They'll help you move walkers to runners and couch sitters to on the road.
How about those of us who use walkers, Sam?
Well, they have they can work with you on that too. If you have an older group, I am absolutely certain that this Run Club app will work for any age or stage. It's very simple to start, build stronger connections in your church. Upward is here for you. Go to upward.org/runcoach. Again, upward.org/runcoach. We've got a link in the show notes.
And don't forget they have lots and lots and lots of different sports, including pickleball.
Pickleball, your favorite.
Pickleball.
Yeah, you just like saying that.
Pickleball.
And Ryan loves pickleball. It's like his favorite sport.
No, it's all play tennis like God intended, people. My kid, 8 o'clock this morning, you know what I was at? I was at tennis lessons with my youngest son, and that's God's sport right there. That is a lot of fun. I love tennis and baseball.
You do know that tennis courts across the nation are being converted into pickleball courts.
Pickleball courts.
And every day we stray further and further from God's light.
What you're going to talk about in this podcast, we're going to talk about more or less politics in the pulpit. And you start off by saying it depends.
It depends. It does.
It depends on the issue.
I mean, I was a pastor for 17 years, right? I mean, people ask me, like, how often are you political from the pulpit? And I was like, overtly? Never. Covertly? Sometimes. Because you can't not talk about issues that have a political implication when you preach. It's just not possible, right? You're talking about things like wealth. I mean, obviously that's a huge subject in the Bible. Jesus talked about it all the time. And if you talk about wealth, I mean, there's a lot of things that go along with that wealth, taxation and policy and inequality and all the, like, are those things that Christians should care about. So I really do think it's the divide that you see is like overt politics versus covert politics. And I don't when I say covert, I don't mean like nefarious, like pastors are trying to like sneak in pro-socialist talking points from a sermon. But you know what they want to, they want to talk about, like, if you believe this faith is real and true, then you should want to enact that into the world in one way, shape, or form, whether it's being an end to abortion or reducing the equality gap between, rich people and poor people in America. All that has a religious undertone to, or overtone to it. And I think pastors have to kind of ride the line on that stuff.
So let's talk about some of these issues. Catholics and evangelicals talk more about abortion. Poverty and racism are also popular topics. But those are mentioned less by evangelical pastors and more by mainline pastors. So clearly there are some divides here when it comes to faith tradition as to what kinds of politics get talked about.
And Sam, that may not happen with your generation, but I can tell you from an older generation, when we started talking about biblical issues, about poverty, about people in need, highly biblical, we were looked at suspiciously. Oh, you're part of the left. Mm-hmm. You want to alleviate poverty. So I can tell you that there's been an entire generation that has tried to stay away from that, but I'm here to listen to Ryan and Sam, not listen to Thom.
What's that old quote? Whenever I fed the poor, they called me a saint. Whenever I asked why people were poor, they called me a communist.
I've not heard that one. That's good.
That's good, right? Like, and I think that's like, for the listeners who aren't like real deeply in like American religious history, one of the most important movements in American religious history was the social gospel movement about 100 years ago, where a lot of people that living in, because like urbanization had taken over and industrialization, but the cities hadn't really caught up on things like sanitation and safety and all those things. Like, it was awful living in New York City in 1900. Like, you could get a job, but you would live in a tenement building that might burn down and kill your entire family, and you had no sanitation to speak of. So a lot of Christians said, hey, if we can't save people's souls, maybe we should try to save their bodies first. So things like the 40-hour work week and overtime rules and child labor laws and the ballot initiative were all, and even prohibition came from a deep well of Christian concern for society. And we can debate the merits of prohibition all we want, but those other things, I think we can all say those are objectively good things that made America a little nicer, a little kinder to workers out there. So I think that's the problem, is like we forget that part. If you ask young people, what does religion do in the political world? End abortion, end gay marriage, not like women. They don't understand that there's a whole aspect to it that's not that. It's about economic things. It's about, not just social issues.
And to your point, talking about American religious history, the era that you were talking about precedes the modernist fundamentalist controversies. This is something that those on the right and the left, and that terminology right and left might not even been used back then, but those who leaned more conservative, those who leaned more liberal, actually were united on this effort. And it's where a lot of people were finding common ground. So sometimes when you hear social gospel, you think progressive movement. That actually came after the fact, when the fundamentalists broke away from a lot of this stuff. But there was a time in American history, it was short-lived, unfortunately, where a lot of people were united around this idea of let's make our cities better, let's make our towns better. And now it is viewed more as a progressive agenda item. And I think that's a bit unfortunate.
No, the fact that we code issues a certain kind of way in America, like that, you have to, if you believe in like paid maternity leave, let's say 6 weeks paid maternity leave for any woman who gives birth, she gets 6 weeks off paid. Is that a left-right issue? I mean, to me, that should be a classic social gospel issue, right? Because we care about motherhood, we care about families. Why don't we make it a little bit easier in this country to be a mother and have a family? Little things like, criminal justice reform. The fact that people are sitting in jail for charges for longer than they would be sentenced to the charges if they actually got to trial, but they can't get an attorney because it takes so long right now. Like, isn't that just like a human issue? Not like a left-right issue, but just like a social gospel issue? I mean, there's ways to talk. I get asked that a lot, by the way. Like, what are where do Christians on the left and the right find common cause? If you look hard enough in the data, you can find places where they do generally agree on certain. It's like, why do we spend all our time yelling about things we will never agree on? Find the 3 or 4 things you agree on, then get it done.
Hey, name 1 or 2 of those. You piqued my curiosity.
So paid maternity leave is actually incredibly popular across the board, like close to 90% approval rating. It's amazing that doesn't happen. Okay, this one's going to be a little controversial, but background checks for all gun purchases in America is one of the most popular issues you'll ever see in modern polling. It polls between 85 and 90% of Americans believe you should have to go through a background check no matter how you buy a gun or who you buy it from. Raising the minimum wage is actually incredibly politically popular, even among Republicans. So stuff like that, all those issues are really, really popular. And I just don't know why we don't think more about that stuff.
Because we code things, and as they get coded, they get lumped into certain groups, and we're so polarized that we can't have a legitimate conversation about that. I mean, if you're a politician and the three issues that you just mentioned, and you say, guys, we all agree on this, we're gonna do these things. It's a good way not to get elected. I mean, because you're not saying the right words in the right way in the right code.
So there's this political analyst named David Shore who's really popular on social media. He has his own analytics firm. His whole theory of electability is just do popular stuff. Just find putting a cap on insulin costs.
Okay.
I mean, how can you argue against that? $25 a month is the max you have to pay for insulin in this country. That is incredible. Oh, guess who's going to lose money? The pharmaceutical companies. Boo-hoo. Get over yourself, right? There are it's called popularism. And his whole philosophy is just figure out what the people want, what the issues that poll at 80% and above, and just talk about those issues nonstop. And voters are going to have a hard time not voting for you because you just want to do the thing they want you to do.
That's a good way not to get money, though.
Yeah, that's the problem. But, I mean, I'm actually not convinced, and I actually have a long debate with my students about this in class. Money does not buy votes. It might make a difference in a close election, but if it won't make a not close election a close election. If you're a bad candidate, I don't care how much money you have, you're not going to beat a good candidate. That's just how it goes.
Well, the presidential election, maybe 2-1, Democrat, Republican.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? Trump, he got outraised by Clinton almost 3-1 in 2016 and still won. He got outraised in 2024 2-1 and still won. Remember Obama in 2008? He actually raised almost 5 times as much money as McCain did. At the end, he ran a 30-minute infomercial on all the major networks because he just had so much money, he didn't know what to do with at the end. And he obviously blew McCain out. If you look at the race in Maine for Senate, the woman who lost, the day she lost, still had $30 million in the bank because she didn't know what to spend it on because she bought every open ad slot that was available in the state of Maine at that point. So, at some point, money going from $0 to $1 million helps you a lot. Going from $1 million to 10 million helps you a little, and going from 10 million to 100 million doesn't help you that much.
Wow.
It's not money that does the work.
So, this point, among evangelicals, just 9% of them think their congregation is more politically divided compared to 5 years ago. That shocked me.
And I think it's probably because they were already politically divided 5 years ago.
That makes sense.
We're not more divided now than we were 5 years ago because we were incredibly politically divided 5 years ago. I do wonder, though, and this is something that I would like you guys, and especially Sam, because you have a church. Do you think that your congregation thinks about the political composition of the church very often?
No, I don't. Because there's a few things here. It's a great question. So let's use just my church as a case study. I'm conservative. That doesn't surprise anybody who's listening to this show a long time. In just about every area of my life, most people would say I'm pretty right down the middle conservative. By middle, I don't mean moderate. I mean just straight. I'm a pretty straight down the line conservative in a lot of ways. I'm an inerrantist with Scripture. I'm a registered Republican. That most people know that about me. Mm-hmm. So because of that, people know where I stand. And I'm often talking about issues with people on an individual level with my church. So they just know where I'm at. So there's that side of it as well. We know where Sam stands. We know where the lead pastor stands. So there's little less, because there's no mystery with me, and I'm pretty open about things. Mm-hmm. I try not to be controversial. I try to minister to everybody.
What did you just say?
That there's no...
You try not to be controversial.
Yeah.
Did you really just...
With my church politically, with my community politically, is what I'm saying.
That means they're not on social media.
I am not secretive with my views, while at the same time, I'm not trying to stir up controversy. Let me just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one side of it, is because I have that mentality, I don't think that my church really worries too much about it. But that being said, is it an issue in my church? For certain issues, it is. I know that my church would be most of my church would be stronger on, like, say, the Second Amendment than perhaps others. My church would be very strong on religious liberty because of our Baptist background and, freedom of religion. So there are certain things that I think that if I presented the opposite in a sermon, it would be very controversial.
You're like, that's interesting.
But the community itself is also, like, Bradenton generally is just everyone just kind of gets along, because Florida, everyone's mixed in. We're all thrown in. My neighbors have all sorts of different political views. Florida is known to be more red now, just with the last few elections. But in terms of at the local level in Bradenton, we're still very purple here. So a lot of people just kind of work through it. We don't have racial tensions. I know that there are racial issues. I realize that if you're listening from my community, I know that there are problems. I'm not neglecting that. But in terms of from the macro perspective, we're 55% white, we're 35% Hispanic, 10% Black, and then there's some others there too. So we've all just kind of figured out how to get along here. So for us, we don't have like a divide in the community geographically. Everyone's mixed in. We don't have a divide in the community socioeconomically. There's obviously poor people who want to help them. My church does that. So as quickly as my church would be pro Second Amendment, most people, I won't speak for everyone, very strong in that area. We're also one of the first churches that's going to help the poor. We're also going to be one of the first churches that's like, oh, wow, you're homeless. Let's help you. So I just feel like while we have our views, we're in a good place. And I feel like we're a really good model for that. I feel like my people are a really good model for that at my church. I realize that may be more the exception than the norm.
Oh, I think, but whenever I talk to people about this issue, like outside the church especially, they think that like going to church is like going to a Republican National Committee meeting.
No, it would never be like that at my church. I don't even tell you who to vote for. You're never going to hear a candidate's name out of my mouth from the pulpit.
And I think that's true of most of the 375,000 churches in the U.S.
I think it's true of 99% of them, Tom. I mean, you hear about the 1% because that's their brand. Yeah. Like they're known for being overtly political, but the saying I always like to use is when Michael Jordan was there was a Senate race in North Carolina, a black candidate, a Democrat who was running against a white candidate, had a good chance of winning, was asked why Michael Jordan was not making a donation to the Democrat. He goes, because Republicans buy sneakers too. And I think like in some ways like that sounds very cynical, but it's also very true as a pastor. Like, why would you want to turn off 40-ish% of your potential, attendees because you took a political position? Like, it might draw some more Republicans in if you were super conservative, but you'd also push out a lot of moderates and maybe even, left-wing people in your church. So that's why I keep telling people, like, if you don't go to church, you think you don't know what it is. And like, I've been going to a church now that people would consider mainline, so United Methodist Church, and I sit there and try to think, is anything here political? And I'm thinking, no, it's talking about, love and forgiveness and reconciliation and sin and Jesus and sacrifice and all the things that I want my church to talk about without any of the political stuff on top of it. Like, that is what the median church in America is. You don't, the most politics you get is an American flag in the sanctuary somewhere, which we can talk about all day long, and I don't love, but guess what? A lot of churches do it, and they don't even know why, and no one has enough courage to stand up and go, let's take it out,
So the title of the podcast is, do churchgoers want more or less politics in the pulpit? Is there a single answer to that?
The answer is no. I mean, it really, like, sometimes it's like, maybe, and I can, like, hedge and capitulate and stuff. The overwhelming sense you get from this data is that the people don't want a pastor standing up and wearing a MAGA hat. And they don't want a pastor with a rainbow stole, like in a mainline church. They don't want that either. They want them to preach the gospel. They want to hear, be better. God loves you, but he wants you to be better. They want to be implored to love their neighbor and serve the poor and be a better father and be a better mother. And, all that's what they want from church. That's what you hear it over and over again. They don't want endorsements. They don't want politics. They don't want any of that nonsense. They just want a good, middle of the road, come to Jesus, be better message.
So this just reminds me of not too long ago. When was the Dobbs ruling? What's
like 3 years ago?
Well, whenever it was, I saw a post on Facebook, happened to be one of Jess's church members.
Oh,
then gone now, but then it said, okay, we got the Dobbs ruling in. When we go to church on Sunday, I'm saying this to all of you out there, all of you who are church going, if your pastor does not say anything about the Dobbs ruling, I want you to call to have him fired that day. That was one of Jess's members. I showed it to Jess. He said, whatever.
But that's the thing is, like, you hear that. If you don't speak up on this issue, then you're not an ally to us. And you see it on the left a lot. And you see it on the right like that. On the right, you see it like that too. Can I give you a good example? This just popped in my mind. You guys know who John Pavlovitz is? He's a big deal in the Christian left, okay? He's got like 100,000 Substack subscribers, which is way more than me, and I'm absolutely jealous. So just put that to the side for a second.
You'll get there, and your jealousy will only be overcome by your superiority.
Well, we'll see. So he's a left-wing election-denying conspiracy theorist. He thinks the 2024 election was stolen. And there was another left-leaning publication that called him out this week and said, dude, if it was wrong when the right did it in 2020, it's wrong when the left does it in 2024. And you know what a lot of the comments were? Leave John alone. There is something there that we really need to investigate. Like, wow. We've lost our moral compass and center in this world when we trust institutions when the election goes our way, but immediately when they don't, we stop trusting them. You know, there's nothing that says the 2020 election was stolen. Look how political I'm being right now, by the way. There's nothing that says the 2020 election was stolen, and there's nothing that says the 2024 election was stolen. Nothing. But yet, we're politically motivated in that way. And here's why it's awful being a pastor. Because you got 90% of people who don't want you to talk about it at all, and you got the 10% who want you to talk about it every single Sunday, and they want you to know that, and they try to foment anger against you for not taking more and more stands on these issues that are tertiary in the grand scheme of things. And that's why they're in a terrible position, pastors are.
Well, that family's no longer with the church. They moved out of town, so.
Good for them. That's a good choice for everyone involved.
Yes. We'll see what the receiving church does with them.
So people don't want politics in the pulpit generally, right? Yeah. So, hey, preach biblical issues. If it is a biblical issue, we want to hear about it. We don't want politics in the pulpit. We don't want candidating in the pulpit. And at the same time, it's not like there's this great divide between church members and pastors, because most pastors aren't preaching about politics regularly. So a lot of the discussion or the fireworks around this issue is kind of null and void. Like there's really, this is almost a non-issue. It's like, for the most part, churches are doing the right thing.
So there's this wild thing, and this is worthy of just ruminating on for a minute. If you ask people how Congress is doing as a whole, like awful approval ratings, right? Like single-digit approval ratings. If you ask people how their member of Congress is doing, generally good. If you ask people how school education in America is, they'll say awful. How's your kid's school? They'll say good. If you ask people, should there be more manufacturing jobs in America? They say yes. If you ask them if they would want to work in a manufacturing job, they say no. If you ask people, do churches do a good job of politics in America? They say no. When you ask them if their church does a good job of politics, they say yes.
It's all local.
It's everyone else is the one who's gumming up the works. Right. My community is doing great, and you're the problem. And I think that blaming thing that we do is so incredibly caustic. Like, I'm like, they don't want you to know this. My first question is, who in the world is they?
Good question.
Yeah. Like, who are they? They're coming to get you. Like, who name? I want names and addresses of who's coming. Like, we've got to stop with this otherism.
Ryan Burge, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Come after me.
Come at me, bro. Come at me.
Come at me, bro. But I'm just so sick. And you see this a lot online, and Sam tussles a little bit with these people online. Like they make up these attackers that don't exist, and then want to make you mad about them. Like, who are you talking about?
No. I every now and I give myself some freedom, like twice a year, to be a bit snarky. But what I enjoy doing more than anything is just going to your feed and just writing the same tweet over and over again. Ryan, your facts are hurting people's feelings. So I don't even have to stir things up at my feed anymore. I just go to your feed. Ryan, your facts are hurting people's feelings now.
Oh, I was asked the other day, pastors were like, how do I have like a bigger public profile? I go, don't. Don't try to do that. Because the reason you're going to get a public profile is by having hot takes about like theological issues, and people are going to want to know, are you for or against? Are you for or against? You know what I get to do? I don't have to be for or against anything. My job is just to show you the data as objectively as I possibly can, and then let you figure out what that means. So I don't have to take which means my base is left, right, and center. If you're a theologian and want to be public, it will not be left, right, and center. It's going to be one slice of that bigger pie. I want the whole pie. I want everyone to kind of like me as opposed to that polarized view of things.
And Sam, my concluding words for everything that we're saying in this podcast is everybody loves Ryan Burge.
That's not true.
No, that's not. No, I can name a couple of names. I think most.
I was hoping you would let me end it that way.
No. Yeah, I think most people do very much appreciate what Ryan does. I think that's true. I think most people are like, hey, finally somebody that's just given us the facts. But there's a handful of people out there who you're breaking their narrative, Ryan. You break their narrative.
Well, a lot of what I do is I go, you're so liberal. Then I'll show them like 4 tweets in a row where I make like a very conservative point. And they're like, I was at a thing. I can't tell you who said this to me, but I'll just tell you this. It was a really prominent Southern Baptist. And he goes, I've looked at your Twitter feed and I can't figure out what you are.
I'm a social scientist. That's why.
I was like, what do you want? Like, what do you want from me? Like, good. Like, thank you. Like, that's the greatest compliment I've ever been paid in my life because I don't have to take a side. Like, I really do try. Like, in the classroom, in the same way. Like, if a student expresses a really liberal opinion, I will fire back with a really conservative viewpoint on that issue or vice versa because I want them to hear the best version of the other argument. Like, in this conversation, right? Like, they should hear the best version of why they could be wrong. And then, I don't know if they change their mind or not, but at least they've thought about it a little bit.
When people ask me that, what is Ryan Burge really? You know what I'm going to tell them? I'm going to say, he's a Cardinals fan.
I am. And they're on right now with the Cubs, and I can't watch it. But I'm going to check the score in just a minute. So,
hey, thanks for tuning in today's episode. We are absolutely loving the New Living Translation. I've got these as Pew Bibles. I preach from the New Living Translation. Let me tell you, it is the most preachable Bible. I
love that phrase, most preachable Bible.
I understand the translation philosophies. I also understand that a lot of the language around translation philosophies is marketing language. So let me just say this. We could have a whole debate about translations. What's the best, most preachable Bible? I love preaching from the New Living Translation. That's, I was doing that before the sponsorship here. So I just want to be clear. I was a fan before Tyndale said, hey, let's partner together. So it's a great translation. Go check out newlivingtranslation.com. So it's really easy to remember. Great domain there. newlivingtranslation.com. We've got a link in the show notes as well. Preach from it and put your Pew Bibles in there. They've got a really good Pew Bible over at Church Connect as well, which is their church resource side of things. So you can find out more information about all of that in the show notes. And thanks again to Ryan for being on the Burge Report. It wouldn't be the Burge Report without.
And if it was the Thom and Sam Report, nobody would be here. So we're grateful it's the Burge Report.
Right. Dad, you and I have been doing this a long time. Ryan adds a little different. Middle of the road, just the facts perspective.
When people say, hey, you're different, I never take that well.
Well, I mean, you kind of are different.
You are.
Well, that's why people tune into you. If you were the same as everyone else, why would anyone listen?
You got to be good, weird, not weird, you know?
Yeah.
There you go. You're good, weird, Ryan. You're good,
Thank
weird.
you, buddy.
Weird gets eyeballs, ears, and clicks as well. So
That's
there you
good.
go. Hey, we'll catch you on the next episode.